welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you, and you in the back of the room, thank you as well. You to the left, everything you own in that box, I want to thank you, to the left. Some of you will get that reference, others of you won't. But this is the show that is not just about what references you get, it's about what you're a fan of, because we have got something for every fan, because you, the fans, well, you're a fan of something. And I know I said my own catchphrase backwards, but things are a little backwards. I was on a little mini vacation last week, which is why I missed our regularly scheduled BattleBots special, or I should say technically our Robotics division special. But we are back, we are better, and we have a fantastic guest for you tonight. So combat robotics enthusiasts, rejoice! BattleBots fans, get ready. Get rowdy, because we have an all-new episode for your listening pleasure. We've got not one but two episodes to go over a quick recap with, and then our special guest tonight. You know her, you love her, she's the Boston badass, the one and only Valkyrie, Leanne Cushing, and she is always so much fun to talk to. Sometimes I'm worried, am I going to have to mark this one explicit or not? Well, you'll just have to find out. I think you probably already figured it out if you're listening to this, because it would have said when you downloaded it, explicit content or not. But she is the record holder for most views of a YouTube video on the show's channel in history, with her F-bomb dropping pit report that I did 2 seasons ago, and it will forever live in BattleBots and fan show lore as one of the great interviews of all time. And she's been on the show not once but twice now, and it's always a pleasure to have her back. So I'm so glad that she could squeeze us into our schedule. Her and Andrea Galately are just so busy. I'm so happy for them, though. I really am. So without further ado or any more delay, let's get to it. It's robot fighting time, folks. Okay, we've got 2 episodes to recap. So the first one was the one back from the break, right? They took a break from Shark Week. They came back, and it's the second half of the season starting up. So here we are. We have Huge versus Gigabyte, and this one could have gone a couple of ways, but Huge gets the win. And when they went and did a kind of behind the scenes of what went into the guys from Huge, their strategy in that fight, really interesting stuff. There was like a dozen different variations or a dozen different lengths of spinners that they could use against a bot like Gigabyte. And they wanted to take the cover off, just like Tombstone did a few fights ago. So I think that was like the 4th length or variation of their vertical spinner that they could use, because they didn't want to just hit him on the side. They wanted to hit him on the top corner for a chance to lift that top right up and off. So props to them for using strategy. I mean, you don't hear enough about the strategy, because you got Greg Gibson and Yeti who's just like, I'm just going to go at him hard, I'm going to go at him fast, I'm going to smash. And we love him for it. We really do. But man, when you look at Huge, you don't think, I wonder what their strategy is. But sure enough, Mr. Schultz, he's got one. He had a strategy in this one, and it paid off. Huge gets the win over Gigabyte. Congratulations, guy. They needed that win. So did Gigabyte. I feel for him. I really do. But Huge really needed that one again, because they had such great success last year. You don't want to look at them as like a fluke bot or a one and done. So I'm glad that they were able to pick up that win. Then we had the new kids on the block against the man who now runs BreakerBox. And no, I'm not in the rhyming industry. That's all Farouk. I will leave that to the experts. But yes, Mr. Smitowski, he now has a bot, BreakerBox. Formerly was the operator and creator of Nightmare, but Uppercut was the Nightmare for BreakerBox this time. The young Yo-Yo champion, who also is captain of Team Uppercut. Man, what a great fight this was. A few knockout blows to Breaker Box, and so Team Uppercut gets another win, and that's great for the young squad. I do love seeing these young teams do so well their first outing. Wanhu over Mammoth. Now this one, I will say, I think it's the first fight all season that I disagree with the judge's decision, because it seemed to me like the aggression and control points should have gone to Mammoth, where damage, I think, was clearly on Wanhu's side. But it's tough. I'm glad I'm not a judge. I do not envy their job and responsibilities right outside the battle box there. So Wanhu gets a win. Team Mammoth gets their first loss of the season, which was a little disappointing. Hey, young Ricky Willems, he's got a very bright future, as well as Team Wanhu and Team Uppercut. Son of Waiachi over Texas Twister. This one should have been better than it was, but it was over really before it got started, and that's because Son of Waiachi got a few really good hits in early, and Texas Twister just could not recover from the damage inflicted early on. So Fuzzy Malden will go back to the drawing boards, while the team, it's the family that fights bots together wins together, or however the saying goes. Son of Waiachi will get another one in the win column. Sub-Zero got a win finally. Sub-Zero did what Sub-Zero is supposed to do over P1. P1, who this was the first time that you saw them on a televised fight. They had another fight that was not televised for this season, at least yet. Will probably show up in the Science Channel bonus fight, or maybe to the BattleBot supporters out there, if you know what I'm talking about, or if you don't. If you're thinking about being a BattleBot supporter, I strongly encourage it. It's for a great cause. Go to their Facebook page, facebook.com/BattleBots, and become a supporter today. They could really use the help. I think, I'm not saying like really use it, like they need a GoFundMe, or they're going to set up on street corners. I just mean like it would alleviate a lot of stress if they had a lot of fans supporting what they do in the way that you can as a supporter. There's great benefits to it, so by all means, do that. Deep Six over Nelly the Ellibot. Deep Six is a nasty bot, man. I would love to see this design be where it's not going to be either the one that gets the knockout or the one that gets knocked out. And thankfully, it's gotten 2 knockouts. Now, this was the first ever double knockout, at least that I can recall, in BattleBot's history. And then I guess in the event of a double knockout, they go to the judge's decision, which then declares a winner and a loser. So Deep Six over Nelly the Ellibot. They left like a 6-inch gash in the BattleBox floor. I mean, this thing is incredible. But it's kind of Ricky Bobby, right? You're either first or last. You're either gonna win by knockout, or you're gonna get knocked the F out. Is how Deep Six is. But hey, great team, great group of guys, former Navy SEAL on that team for their captain, and of course Sarah, Team Nelly the Ellibot. I love her to death. She is a great individual, but man, it's like, it's a cute bot, and then it stops right there at being cute, because I'd like to see him get a win. I really do. Stranger things have happened, but she's just happy to be there, and we're happy that she's there. And then the main event, oh my goodness, Whiplash versus Witch Doctor. Now, a lot of people are calling this one the fight of the year. I'm still holding my vote for Victor Soto and Rotator against Ray Billings and Tombstone. I know that this one went the distance. It went all 3 minutes, and it came down to decision, which ultimately went to Witch Doctor. But there were a few elements in that Rotator and Tombstone fight that I feel just kind of were a step above what we saw from Witch Doctor and Whiplash, and that's not taking anything away from them at all. If anything, like, that's good company to be in. You've got those 4 bots and the 2 contenders for fight of the year right now, and we're just past the midway point of the season. That's pretty awesome. So you guys are welcome to share your thoughts with me, either on the flagship handle on Twitter at F.A.N Show Official, or the Robotics Division specific Twitter handle, F.A.N Show _ Robotic, not robotics, robotic. There wasn't enough room for the S. So at fanshow_robotic. Tweet me your thoughts, your comments. Which do you think is the fight of the year so far? Rotator versus Tombstone, or Whiplash versus Witch Doctor? You can also comment and share your thoughts on the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanshow official. So that was episode 2 weeks ago. And, of course, I was in San Antonio, Texas on assignment. Did not have a chance to book a guest or record an episode last week, so I'm making up for it now. And this one's getting out a little late. My apologies. Things have been a little chaotic here. But so then we had the most recent episode, which was, again, another great one. Kronos getting the win over Copperhead. How crazy is that? I did not see that one coming, but good for the guys in Kronos. Obviously, Zach and Copperhead, formerly Poison Arrow, have a few things to sort out back in the pits. Then we saw Hydra over Petunia, and I don't know if anyone thought Petunia could pull out this win. I certainly didn't, and I know that the guys, the Dutch Destroyers, they are a great team, but man, Hydra is on a different level right now. I mean, if we get to see Hydra versus Bronco, it's probably going to be the third one for Fight of the Year. It's just my thoughts on it. So congrats to, again, another one of the Waiachi family and Team Hydra for getting a convincing win. They're undefeated. Yeti over Rainbow. This one, I feel like people had hope that Rainbow could put up a good fight. But Greg Gibson, man, he's a brawler, right? He's the bearded beast from up in Alaska, and his Yeti bot is just tearing him up right now. Like I said, he's the only one, the only captain, the only builder without a strategy. His strategy is, I have no strategy. I'm just going to go hard, go fast, and smash, smash, smash. And he did that against the Russian Rainbow, or the Rainbow from Russia, the Russians with their Rainbow bot. Whatever you want to call them, however you want to refer to it. They have a good bot, but I don't think they're quite up to the caliber where they should be picking on guys like Yeti just yet. Scorpios over Tantrum. That was a really good fight. Scorpios doing so well this season. Very happy for them. Great to see that they have things firing on all cylinders. Their weapon, obviously, that sort of slammer, hammer, buzzsaw, kind of like what we see with Sawblaze. Doing very, very good, so they get another one in the win column. They're doing the best they've done. He called out Don Hudson of Lockjaw. He said he would love to have that fight. I hope we get that fight. I would love to see that fight as well. Free shipping over Bronco. In my mind, probably the upset of the week, of the card, maybe of the year so far. Some would say Rotator over Tombstone, but this one really, look, I love Gary Jin and what he does with free shipping, but the boys in Bronco, I mean, that is a bot that most people fear. Am I right? It's one it's a legendary bot, kind of like Nightmare was, and like Lockjaw and Bite Force currently are. And for them to get taken around the battle box for a few minutes there by free shipping, it was great for Gary Jin, bad for the guys in Bronco, and hopefully Team Bronco can get back in the saddle again and win their next one. I would love to see them in the 16, because I think this is just a rough patch they've hit. Then we had Valkyrie and Monsoon. This one did go the distance, all 3 minutes. Leanne Cushing and I talk about this fight a little bit, and it was just great to see Valkyrie and Monsoon, who are good friends, go to a judge's decision. It was unanimous. Valkyrie did win this fight, and if you've seen it, you understand why. There was no denying that Leanne and Valkyrie, they really are on another level this season, and we talk about that as well, the differences between last year and this year and just everything else. So the last one was Bite Force versus Hypershock. This one maybe could have been considered for Fight of the Year. Will Bales and Hypershock really doing some good work out there in the battle box, but man, Paul Ventimiglia, it's like, how do you beat Superman? That's what I see when I see a Bite Force fight. And yeah, Will was absolutely right in his post-fight comments. It's like, we made him flinch. And there's a running joke in the DC comic universe that, if Batman and Superman were to ever fight, that Batman couldn't even make Superman flinch. And then I think he says something to him and he flinches and he's like, ha, made you flinch. That's kind of what this was, And I'm not saying that Will Bales and Hypershock could never beat Paul Ventimiglia in Bite Force, but it is, anytime you go up against Bite Force, you're already the underdog. I mean, let's just be real. It's the same way with Ray Billings and Tombstone, and maybe even Marco and the guys at Minotaur. Granted, they haven't had the best season, but before a season officially starts, you're looking at how well they did last year. Those are the three names of bots that I'm thinking anybody who's matched up against them, except for themselves, obviously. So you have the three: Tombstone, Bite Force, and Minotaur. And as long as Tombstone isn't taking on Bite Force or Minotaur and all the other different combinations, you put any bot there, they're already the underdog. Just plain and simple. So Bite Force remains undefeated. Still, I think, carrying over from last year, one of the longest winning streaks right now. But hey, for this to be the first loss for Will Bales and Hypershock, that's a pretty damn good first loss for them. So congratulations to all the bot fighters and all the bots that we saw. No bonus fights until October, I've been told, as far as if you were waiting for that to be on the Science Channel, and we're getting excited for those replays. But we still have all new episodes coming your way, including content that I was able to get during my time down in Long Beach for the Season 4 taping of BattleBots. So without further ado, any more delay, let's go ahead and have a conversation with Leanne Cushing of Valkyrie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now, she is a badass from Boston. It is the captain of Valkyrie, Leanne Cushing. How you doing, Leanne? Welcome back.
Hello, I'm doing great. 2/3 of the way through this year, and I don't know where all the time has gone since the season ended.
It is crazy to think about how quickly time flies. I mean, I was just thinking about how, I told Greg, I was like, oh, we're going to have to wait forever for these episodes to be released. And, you go back home and you're like, well, a month and a half, it'll kind of fly by. And now we just resumed with the second half of the season. It's already, almost the end of August going into September. So it is crazy how time flies. And, of course, you had yourself a fantastic fight on this last episode with Monsoon. It went the distance, full 3 minutes. Unanimous decision. You guys are 2-1. And I got to say, last year I thought that you guys were a good team. This year I feel like you guys are a great team. Is that a similar feeling for you? And if it is, what is the difference between Valkyrie 2018 and Valkyrie 2019?
Thank you. Yeah, I was way happier with how the season went. We basically, all of the different bugs that we had last year, errors that we didn't get to see until we were in the box, like weapon issues, clutch issues, and then a very particular drive problem that I can go into. But basically we fixed all that. The perks of having a team of all engineers, we all are problem solvers. So the second that we weren't even done this season and we're already thinking about what we want to do for next year, there's already a list for if it comes back next year. The drive issue that we had last year that came up with our first fight with Hypershock, we learned was actually our half-inch base plate made out of aluminum was flexing enough to knock some of the brushes from the motor that we're using into the assembly and bind everything up. So we figured that out, and now everything works so good. And the fact that we had 3 full minutes, bar just kept going, did not break, no chain problems, nothing. Even the batteries and our controllers weren't even hot. So we now have made a design that doesn't want to fail. So I'm very, very happy with that.
I imagine so, because there were some frustrating moments for you last year, and I know that there's a few teams this year that are feeling that same frustration. I mean, Captain Shredderator has run into a few problems of its own, even Minotaur, having to submit to the Desperado tournament, which I'll be honest, I never thought I'd see the day. But nonetheless, there are so many things that you can't account for, really, or that maybe you just hope for the best. It's like, well, did we account for this? I don't know, but at this point, it's like we're as good as we're going to be, and we just hold our breath. In each off season for you as a team of engineers, because the joke is, right, is the glass half full or half empty? No, the glass wasn't made to the specifications if you're an engineer. So for you guys in an off season, like what kind of tweaks do you go through, and what is that process like from you guys as far as a think tank and the adjustments and bouncing ideas off of each other?
So I feel like even though the season ended in April, some of us haven't really taken a break. Like I promised myself no combat robot like competitions or new designs for the full summer, like till August is what I said. But then I made an exception with driving Alex, my teammate's 3-pound Valkyrie foiled again. I ended up competing with that in Norwalk, Connecticut. I don't know, like 3 months ago or something, 2-3 months. And so I broke my own rule, but basically all of us, what we do, like Alex is working on a new 3-pound robot that's like a mini quantum, so it looks like a stapler remover. I'm working on like the 4th revision of my hammer robot that's a 30-pound robot, and then besides that I have a couple other robot projects where I'm going to be using a different transmitter, see how driving works with that, and then start playing more with the controllers that we currently have. I know Fred has been working a lot on trying to figure out, like, we know what the weapon wants to run at, and we know what its peak current it can take, and we just need a faster spin up. So now we're just trying to figure out, like, how can we give it enough juice? Because with the current controller we have, it does like sort of a slow rise and not like instantaneous current, and that makes it so we are a slower spin up team, which is why we, like, if Monsoon didn't box, like they didn't box rush us, and so that gave us some time to spin up. But if they had, maybe it would have gone differently. And like Ragnarok was able to flip us upside down, and the only way that really works is if we're not spinning too fast, because the gyroscopic force, like the moment from the weapon, usually can keep us on whatever plane that we're oriented in. And apparently so far, like there's been more than one time that we've been upside down.
Yeah, and you guys have had, like I said, a very good season, 2-1, and that one loss, of course, I probably could have gone either way. But you guys, to have a big win over a name like Monsoon, especially with how well that they did last year, obviously
Right.
you guys are on the up and up. So we'll talk about, how you feel about the rest of the season in a minute. But what I was curious about, and I was thinking this because I try to relate to you guys and what you go through in an off season, as a big fan of sports, and even what I do with the podcast. And so here I have, I just got back from San Antonio, and I was unpacking my bags, and I was getting set up for our interview, and I have this checklist every time I go somewhere. And it's because when it comes to my equipment, there are certain things that I have and certain things that I need. And if I don't have like one of those 3 things that I need, it's like all the rest pretty much becomes useless. And one of them is the converters. So I have an iPhone that doesn't have your typical headphone jack. So I have to have that little adapter cord that connects the phone to the cord that I have plugged into my mixer to do phone interviews like this one. And then I have, of course, a MacBook that doesn't have your typical USB input. So I have to have that adapter as well. What is your checklist like each season? And have you gotten to a point where you pretty much have 2 of everything, or are there still some things that you get there and you're like, crap, we don't have that, like what do we do?
We actually, I think, have almost 3 of everything this year. Last year we only had 2 of everything, and actually we're a little bit ahead of that because Hypershocks like ripped through a whole titanium front plate that we use for most matches, and so we had like a Bombshell was going out on a titanium and water jet run in parallel when we wanted to do one, and so I was like, oh hey, is there any way I can get on this order? I don't mind like throwing in like a little bit extra for you guys because you're going to be running around doing it. So now we have like 5 titanium front panels, so we're set for next year. Like for the most part, we pretty much are good to go for next year. I have like there's a couple things that haven't happened yet, that there's some components that we need to double check and test, but besides that, like we're pretty good to go. And yeah, the checklist thing, we actually have we changed from last year. We did a checklist for every time we were going. Every match we have a takeoff checklist, if you will, and then a list of what we check for immediately after the match to make sure that like we get as much data as possible. And then the before is like, Loctite, tighten screws, all of that. And both things have like been a huge improvement. I think next year the only thing is we have some new plans vertical spinners, and that's the only thing that we're gonna have to get the design done for and manufactured. So.
Fair enough. Now, one thing that you and I talked about while I was down there for the tapings was how happy and excited you were about the teams that were your friends, because we know that you and obviously Will go way back, and then, of course, Jamison Go is a guy in a team that you vouched for, but also Ribot was a team that you said would do well, and they have for their first year. And then there was a couple of other teams that, it's like now everybody's going to Leanne to, say, hey, what's a good team and a good bot that we could have, and you vouch for them, and hey, guess what? They pay off. So many athletes I talk to, when we talk about life beyond football or basketball or baseball, they're like, I'd like to go and give back and become a coach or something like that. And that's usually the response I get 9 times out of 10. We have Lisa Winter, who is a judge now. She does not compete anymore, as well as Derek Young. What does life after BattleBots, I imagine probably very far down the line, but have you given any thought to what kind of role you would like to play after your combat days are over?
I'm not sure. So actually, as far as mentorship goes, I do mentor the 2 teams that my team is vouched for. To be fair, Fred is the one that said, hey, we should say that Huge should be on the show last year, and I got in. But I mentored Jonathan, the captain of Huge, and then I mentored David of Ribot as well as his team, but mostly David. But I guess I've always had a passion for helping younger engineers. That's how Alex, who's on my team, how we know each other. He was my intern 5 years ago. So I actually did more mentorship before doing combat robotics than I do a fair amount of it now, but it's also fun because I get to play. Whereas when I was mentoring high school teams for First Robotics, you have to help the kids to the solution. You get to teach them how to do stuff, but you don't get to play yourself. So I think long term, what I'd like to see, I wish it was possible for BattleBots to be a full-time job, because it is the 2 weeks I'm happy, and also anytime I start talking robots, I'm super excited. But yeah, I don't know. I guess for now, I figure we'll just keep going. I like doing the smaller competitions. The amount of parents and little girls I've met at events, or parents talking about their little girls, have told me that I've made a big difference. Or there's one, I saw one post from Friday that was a guy saying that his daughter joined her middle school robotics team because of me. And so that type of stuff is cool. And I like doing the smaller events. I did an outreach event out in Indiana back in March with Maddie of Huge. And it was just showing hello, this is what a lady in STEM that actually does a degree in engineering and goes and works in it. And just show them that I'm not this super intense square person. I'm a goofball, and I don't know, I'm very open, and I like to just tell whatever, anything that I can do to help. And so I think for now it's more of just continuing to have an active role of being in the sport and balancing the very heavy numbers that are mostly male, and then also just sort of visiting, and there's an outreach in Hartford this weekend that I'm doing that the Huge folks put on, and they asked me to come out for that. It's going to just be, again, talking with a bunch of kids, anything I can do to answer them. I went back to my first robotics team from high school back in December and talked to the kids there, and just sort of hi, I got shoved at lockers. I was a punk, and here we are. And so it was just sort of a way to encourage or inspire the next generation when STEM is not, I don't know, there's still the anti-college thing going on, and STEM is in that sort of fall through of, if you don't go past high school, unless you're a self-taught coder, you're probably going to need some sort of additional education to really have a good career or education to build more robots. Our team does well, Will does well, because we went to school for engineering. Will was at WPI. So we like to, I don't know, I think that it's really important to get some of the building blocks that you might not get from just reading blogs online. Yeah.
I think obviously there's a lot that you offer, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds for you. And don't get me wrong, I hope that your beyond bot fighting days are far down the road, because I love seeing you as a competitor. But one thing you may want to, just humor me, if you will, is I think you would be great as the first woman BattleBots commentary, just because I think there's a lot that you could bring to the table. Now, they might have to be pretty hot on the sensory button for you, but I still think...
I was going to say, that's the one who I score on this thing, and it's a big deal. Like, that's why at the smaller robot events, I never actually usually take the mic. It's because I can't trust myself to say things that are appropriate, because there's usually children watching. I don't know. It could be possible. I don't know if you saw, actually, speaking of commentators, but my fight with Monsoon, and, like, Kenny just, like, faked me out. Like he went every fight, interview, handshake. And I started to go for the handshake. He pat me on the back instead. So, yeah, I got laughed at for that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
'Tis the season for great memes and GIFs from BattleBots. I know that Farouk gets a brunt of them, but now to see your face out there is really, it's good. It's good entertainment.
Yeah, the Ragnarok fight. Because, I'm really good friends with Ragnarok. I think, that there's some after competition drinking that happens, and they were probably one of the more common folks I would hang out with. I actually bought Tweety cider and Tim gin after we beat them because I felt so bad because they had so much work to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ragnarok's another one of those teams that I feel like everything that can go wrong has for them, and I feel for them because they're a great crew. They really are. One thing I wanted to know from you as far as, this season and what it's meant to you. I was talking with Jago and, of course, Victor Soto and then Andrea, and I said, I remember when BattleBots came back on ABC and everybody, of course, had the same names at the tip of their tongue, like Ray Billings and, of course, Don Hudson, Paul Ventimiglia. But I said now there's a lot more people talking about the younger fighters like Soto and Jameson Go and you and Andrea Galately, but actually even more so the ladies of BattleBots like you and Andrea. Like, how does that make you feel, and do you feel like you have deserved to be mentioned in the same company as the greats that have come before you and are still out there today?
I think I'm glad that's the case. I do know, just from season 1 I watched, because my recently not roommate, but used to be roommate, Adam from Overhaul, Adam Berku, and then Brutus. He was on, and so was Charles, who I'm friends with. And so I watched it, and I was like, some of the machines I just saw them, I was like, that's not going to work. There's no way that can physically work. And then it didn't work. And I was like, man, I could do this. So that's the thing. But I don't know. I think it's cool. And also, one of the things that I've realized, especially I've been running my own company for a little over 2 years now. And this will probably get someone mad because it keeps doing that when I mention it. But, I never realized how much it mattered in the world that I was the gender I am. In all my engineering jobs, there's always been some issue that comes up with some person at some point. But, that was just sort of, everything in life, I always had that be the case. But, now it's, heavy bias and, not even welcoming you into the club. And so I didn't want to have that be the case with any of the builders, especially girls at BattleBots. Whether it's, a girlfriend or mom that may not be as active in it, they do have to tolerate a lot of our crap, us that build through the night or whatever. And then similarly, there are a lot of female builders or whatever. I actually have another girl team member, Amanda, on my team. And I didn't think it was going to matter because we're both kind of tomboyish girls. And I found that there was a couple of times where it was very beneficial having her there, or I was able to help her out. So yeah, I don't know. I like that there's a secondary community now, that there's enough women in BattleBots that we have our own kind of group to talk and be support to each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. More power to you guys. And I'm sorry that that's been sort of a shortcoming for you, years prior, but hopefully those days are getting fewer and fewer, because I think that you guys bring a fantastic element to the world of robot fighting. I mean, just sports in general, really. But for you, you said that this was like the happiest 2 weeks of your life. So the last question I have for you, looking at where we are in the season, which is about 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way. We're past the midway point anyway, and you guys are doing awesome as Team Valkyrie. So with you and how happy BattleBots makes you, and basically just the impact that you have on so many other teams and the mentorship, like, is it championship or bust for you and Valkyrie, or is it just you're happy to be there and kick ass?
Oh, no, I mean, I told them when I sat down with production at the beginning of the season, I was like, I think we ironed out everything. And I think, like, not only do I think top 16, I'm aiming for, like, top 8 or top 4. I was, yeah, like, I was pretty, well, also, to be fair, like, I'm friends with Minotaur. And so it was pretty easy to learn early on they were having issues. And I was like, yo, one down, I could have a chance. Which I don't know if they mentioned it, but what their issues were for all their previous fights through up to Desperado was they the drum that they made was slightly too large of a diameter, and so it was actually scraping on the floor because the floor was wicked uneven, and they made it too close, and so it was using the floor as like a brake pad, basically, like stopping the disc. Like every time they hit a bump, it would just like rub down on it, and that's why they couldn't really get it to continue to spin up. But yeah, so I think like that kind of helped, and we'll see how the rest of it goes. I will say that there is a lot of differences in the way that BattleBots runs versus an average competition anywhere, and sometimes it makes sense because I've done a lot of bracket building and stuff for different events, and then there's other times where it doesn't make sense and it's like frustrating. Like, for example, like, oh my god, they're talking about Will so much this season, and I keep giving them crap for it. I'm like, man, dude, you are getting, like, your sponsors must be thrilled. You're getting, like, double our screen time, and, like, we have similar ranking. Like, he has, I think that he's at 2-1 right now. This is the problem with talking about things when you don't remember what matches are. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But yeah, like they talk about him, like they hype him so much, and I'm like, man, like we had beaten him, that could have been awesome. Maybe. They just love Will. But yeah, I don't know. It's because one of the nice things is there was a lot of new teams this year, so you could actually study a couple of things that other teams were doing that you really liked. Like a thing that Bombshell did, I really liked. They called it boat mode. Shatter showed how effective really chunky UHMW as protection is, and then One Who had little teeth razors on the bottom of their edge, and we're like, there's no way for us to implement it, but it's not a bad idea of just like figure out a way to like get caught on like a wedge or something so you don't get shoved around. And then we borrowed Robot's wheels that had like stickiness to them, so now we're gonna have traction next year, and yeah, it's all good.
Well, onward and upward. I'm glad that you're having success and a great time outside of BattleBots, too. Sounds like you're a very, very busy woman, which is good. Good problems to have. Maybe we'll see the Leanne Cushing BattleBot League or Robot Combat League at some point in the future, and it can be awesome in everything that you want it to be. But, hey, Leanne, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure to have you on the show and talk BattleBots with you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me. I always like talking to you, and obviously I rattle on way too much. So.
Trust me, good problems to have. I always worry if the interview is going to be too short and if people don't know what to say, and you clearly do not have that issue. So, once again, thank you. And she is the badass from Boston, Leanne Cushing of Valkyrie. You have a great rest of your night, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
And one more big thank you to Leanne Cushing of Valkyrie. And again, great fight for them against Monsoon this last week. And of course, Hydra, Yeti, Scorpios, free shipping, Bite Force. And before that, huge uppercut, Wanhu, Son of Waiachi, Sub-Zero, Deep Six, and Witch Doctor. Those are your winners from the last 2 weeks. There will be an all-new episode this Friday. We'll have an all-new guest for you next Wednesday, so don't forget, like, share, love, listen, and follow the F.A.N show every way that you can. If you want to subscribe to the show, there's so many easy ways that you can do it. We go live on Spreaker.com. It's the home base for all of our recorded shows and programs. And iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. The 4 big ones. You can pick whichever one you like, or you can subscribe and download to multiple. Like, I don't care. It's just consume the Fan Show however you can, because we love when you guys listen to our great content right here on the home of Fan Nation. And social media, don't forget the Fan Show. That's the Instagram. But the best ones, obviously, are the Facebook page, facebook.com/fanshowofficial, and Twitter. The flagship Twitter account, the main one, The Fan Show, is @FanShowOfficial. But for those of you that are just interested in robotics and BattleBots and combat robots, anything of that combination, it is FanShow_robotic. And it's not official unless it's Fan Show official. And we are officially out of here. Thank you, BattleBots and Leanne Cushing. We will see you guys next week. Good night.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.